Hello everybody, Walters954 here. In this video I will be going over the mock interview that I did with my friend Salesforce Chef. Check out his channel, which has a lot of development related material around it. Learn how to be a Salesforce developer, some good practices, and some mistakes that he has made along the way. This is a mock interview, so everything you're going to see here is fictional, but a lot of the questions I do come across when I'm interviewing, and when I do interview people, they are some of the questions that I go over. Make sure to link down in the description some interview questions that you get asked, and if you have been asked some of the interview questions that we are going over here today. Also, once again, if you're not subscribed, make sure to hop on Salesforce Chef's channel. And also, if this video is helpful, make sure to hit that like button. Let's jump into it. Gonna go over here and start
Warren,
the
thank you
interview.
so much for coming in today. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Syed, thank you for having me. I'm super excited about this interview.
So that's basically about me and my company, and I would love to hear more about you. Please tell me about yourself.
I'm going to start by pointing out a couple key things that you can see at the start of the video. One, I am dressed as if I was doing this in person. Two, the background that I have going on is very clean, I'll say. It's not filled with like clothes or anything out of the ordinary. And then just making sure that you are treating this as an in-person interview. So I'm clean shaved, brushed the beard a little bit for those that have that. One thing I wanted to point out, maybe I could lose the headphones. I kept them on. They can be a little bit distracting for an interview type of setting. So if you have smaller headphones, put those in. Cool, yeah. My name is Warren Walters. I have a background in computer science. I've been in the Salesforce space for about 4 years now, and I'm super excited that you guys have afforded me the opportunity to interview with you. This is my 5-second elevator pitch. Shout out to Mike Court, who is a really cool coach and sales trainer who kind of went over this process. So make sure you have a bullet point list that you can go over very quickly about yourself for an interview. The interviewer will have your resume, but that doesn't actually mean that they've read it. Maybe they just didn't have time. So just kind of spew out some of the key points that you have, and then make sure you're able to actually elaborate on all of those individual points, which I will go into here. A little bit more, I've been in a few different development roles, and my most recent role was as a Salesforce consultant.
Okay, and what do you do as a developer? What kind of tasks, projects do you work on?
Generally, it's code development, Apex, Lightning Web Components, you name it, I've probably worked on it. Expanding upon the idea of having your elevator pitch, make sure you have different areas around development that you can talk about. The ideal is to make sure you have projects that you can go over and say, okay, I remember building this custom page in LWC, and this is how I did it. I used a track decorator on this specific type of variable, so it would show up and repeat, yada, yada, yada. If you don't have that type of experience, use your personal projects that you've done, or even your trailhead badges that you can call upon to say, oh, well, I did XYZ trailhead badge and it allowed me to do this type of thing. And depending on the interview, they will know the type of level that you're supposed to be on. You're not expected to know everything that is going on in Salesforce and Salesforce development if you're going for an entry-level position. So I had that internship, but when I graduated, I did have the option to move between going to a front end or back end development position in another technology. But something that really stuck with me with Salesforce is the flexibility and speed to market. A lot of traditional development takes a lot of time. You'll have to have the back end people spin up a server, set up your I wanted to take a moment here to point out some of my hand movements. Since this is not in person, it is a little bit harder to convey your facial expressions and your gestures and meaning behind words instead of, it's a lot easier to do that when you're face to face. So I'm using a lot of hand gestures to call attention to specific topics and phrases that I'm using, and keywords, points in my conversation, to make sure that the listener or the interviewer kind of gets those and focuses in on those main points.
Can you tell me what are the best practices you adhere to with Apex?
Sure. A lot of the best practices with Apex stem around some of the 15 commandments that are out there, but I'm bringing up the 15 commandments. I will link to them down below. This is an article written by Salesforce. I forget the guy's name right now, but it's one of the key things that I use when I'm building interview questions and topics. So they're kind of just like baseline Salesforce best practices when you're doing development to keep in mind and to do. Also, other resources down below. I am skipping a little bit around in this video, so make sure to head to Salesforce channel to watch the full video. And then there's going to also be another resource down below that has a full list of the interview questions that I like to ask when I'm interviewing. A lot of that is around like not putting SQL queries inside of loops.
Why is it important to use maps?
Yeah, maps are really important because they allow you to easily sort and store your information inside of Salesforce. So take maps are your best friend as a Salesforce developer, in my opinion. Quick side note, in school, I was actually very afraid of dictionaries and maps. I didn't understand them very well. And then as I moved into my development role in Salesforce, I started to learn them a lot better and get more familiarized with them. If you don't understand maps or are a little afraid of them, don't worry, stick with it, and they will start to make a lot more sense. I should probably make a couple videos around them. They are extremely useful when it comes to Salesforce development. Lists generally. So mentally at this point, I started to catch on that I've been saying generally and yeah a lot in my interview. This just comes with pre-interview jitters. Even though this is a mock interview, it is a little stressful than just normally talking to somebody. One way to combat this is to do mock interviews and reach out to me if you want me to interview you and give that a try. But the more you interview, the more you will understand yourself and what go-to words that you will use when using like transitions and things like that. Mine is like generally, because a lot of things with Salesforce, it is generally a good practice, but there's 100 ways to do one specific thing inside of Salesforce. Learn things that you do when you're interviewing and try to work around them. So I could definitely mix up the words that I use in the intro, but it's a good learning lesson and I stick to it to kind of point it out and bring it up in this type of context.
When you want to add logic into a trigger, into the trigger handler, how do you decide whether to put it in the before or after?
Right. Really quickly, one thing to mention is that I like to use acknowledgement phrases to make sure that the interviewer knows that I have registered and have understood what they're saying. So in that example, he asks a question and I say to kind of solidify that I understand what they're asking and I pick up on what they're looking for and I'm ready to kind of like move on to the next stage. This is a good question and it comes up often.
So Warren, if I have a trigger on the account object, I'm doing some updates to the account record, but I also want to update the.
Once again, with the facial expression aspect and the body language piece, you can see here that I'm trying to stay a little bit more upbeat, throwing, I would say, smiles every so often. Even if you're not a person that doesn't smile all the time, you don't want to look glum and sleepy while you're going through it. You want to look excited and have a smile going on every time. This may not be the best example of saying super excited and you don't want to look fake and be over exaggerated in everything that you do, but you can definitely be a little bit more excited because you don't want to hire somebody that is, I'll say, boring or that's going to bring down the workplace. You want to hire somebody that's fun and somebody that is going to be a joy to work with, because let's be honest, working does suck, but it is a little bit better when you have really great people to work with.
Child contact records.
Mm-hmm.
Where would I put that logic?
If this was like a before insert, then we wouldn't have the correct IDs. to query the system to update the context. So we're going to do this on the after trigger. One thing that interviewers love, and one thing that I love to see, is people working through things in their head. And I love this pause screen here. Look at my face. Anyways, so we want to see you work through items in your head. I'm just like laughing at my face. Okay. We love to see you work through things in your head and express it in words. So we all know that we can sit here and think about every little detail on the trigger, but we want you to be able to explain that out to us like if we were a 5-year-old and going over it to us, so that we can know how your thought process works and how it may work similar to ours or even work different, but you may come up with the correct answer. So try to go over what is going on in your head out loud so that everybody can hear it and enjoy, what you're thinking.
What do you do when you're stuck?
But the first thing I'll do is reaching out and searching to see if I can find any other examples or anything else that I can find, because I definitely don't know everything that's out there. One thing I want to bring up here is that it is okay to admit that you don't know something. Nobody knows everything inside of Salesforce. You have to be open and honest with yourself to say, hey, I don't know XYZ thing that you're asking me in this question, but I'm willing to learn it. And that is the key thing that you'll have to do, is outline that whatever you don't know, you have the capacity to learn it, or you will go out and, figure it out yourself. It's not about knowing everything unless you're applying for like the absolute expert in Lightning Web Components. You should be okay and open with the recruiter, especially for the entry-level positions, to know that, hey, I don't know XYZ thing, but I want to learn it some more. And that's the reason why I want to work here, is because you most likely know it, you've dealt with it before, and you can teach me, and then we can all grow.
Great. Do you work in your current job? Do you work with Salesforce admins?
Yeah, we have a few admins at. So this is kind of like a probing question to understand how you work in a team environment. If you haven't really worked with anyone else, like say you've been like a solo developer or you're the only Salesforce person, it's okay to say that you haven't worked with them, but you're definitely excited to work on a team if that's the role that you're going for. But this is more like a team-based question, understanding how you work with a team, because Salesforce is most likely not going to be the only system that you've ever worked with or the company has. So this is to understand how you work with other people and how you take, how you take feedback from others. Our current job, and it is something that we definitely have to build for, is working with admins and having them, be able to interact with code.
What has your interaction been like with admins? Do you feel like you need to teach them, help them through the Salesforce challenges? How do you find it working with them?
Yeah. So once again, the thing that you're looking for here is somebody who is not closed-minded. And there's going to be people that are smarter than you. There's going to be people who are more experienced than you in every position, in every role. So you want to be a person that is open-minded, willing to take feedback, and you're willing to help others who may be junior as well. Even if it's not in your job description, you want to go above and beyond. And that's the type of employee that I look for, and the type of developer that other companies are looking for as well. So a lot of times it really depends on their level. So for more junior admins, I do like to coach them. Also, you can build invocable methods or create invocable methods so that admins can access your code. Hitting this point again, you're most likely not going to be the only person working in the org. And as a developer, you want to definitely enable others to have access to the code and to what you are doing. You don't just want to code everything. You don't want to code validation rules. You don't know how many orgs I've seen where validation rules that could have been regular configuration validations were built inside of triggers. You want to stay away from that and only build the complex things inside of code. Go to configuration first, And then when all else fails and there's no other options, go to code and then start writing it there.
Great, great. All right, that's pretty much it with my questions. Did you have some questions for me about the company?
Always, always, always have questions. At the very minimum, do research on the company, the person who's interviewing you, and the role that you're interviewing for. So have questions around those. Never leave an interview without asking some sort of questions. And then you'll see at the end how I kind of follow up with that as well. Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about your background and how you got started in Salesforce? And then an additional question that I have is, what does the team kind of look like, and what would my role be in this team?
Yeah, so we have about.
So this role question that I'm kind of going over is to get an idea of, one, what I will be doing, but two, understand if I will like the job itself. It's okay to go into an interview and not like the job and basically turn it down because it's not going to be a good fit. If you're not looking to travel at all and they say, oh, well, this role has 90% travel, you're going to be gone a lot. That is, you shouldn't move forward wasting anybody else's time if that's going to be a deal breaker for you right away. So you'll ask these role questions. You want to go over the team. You want to go over what you're going to be doing to get an idea of what it's like. And if you're just starting out, you may not actually know what you like, but it's still a good idea when you're hearing a lot of these things to either take mental notes or even take notes during the interview to say, that's a red flag for me, or, oh, I really like that. We're going to be in a team environment and everybody meets in the same room every day to talk about the issues that they're having. That's super exciting to me.
6 developers in total. Three of them are onshore, 3 of them are offshore into Lightning Web Components.
Awesome.
So cool. These are the 2 areas that the team is tackling currently.
Okay. And then I have a few more questions, but I know we are running out of time. I guess the last question I have is, when can I expect to hear back from you? You want to be conscious of your time at the end of the interview, making sure that you can go through all of your questions. If you don't get to all of your questions, make the offer to say, hey, I'm going to email you out my questions. I have some additional ones, but I know we're running out of time. Also, make sure to follow up asking about the time frame when you can expect to hear back from them. I try not to ask, especially for technical interviews, about salary or benefits or anything like that. All of that can be figured out later when they send the offer and all this other stuff. So at least from my experience when you're going through technical interviews.
Yeah, so I took down notes on our discussion. I want to discuss your candidacy with our CTO. We have been interviewing a couple of people, and I will let you know our decision within 3 days.
Awesome, awesome. So I think that's it. That definitely works with my timeline. And, I'm super excited about this. And thank you so much for taking the time out to interview me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Warren. Talk to you soon.
Alrighty, Sayat. Have a good one. So that's it. In the end, just make sure to thank them for spending the time to interview you. They did take time out of their day to go over this, and if you're in the consulting world, that can be a lot of time. Other than that, do your follow-up. So he said in 3 days. So if you don't hear back on the 4th day, maybe shoot out an email, things like that. And I think that's it. So thank you guys so much for watching. If this video was helpful, make sure to hit that thumbs up. Go over to Salesforce Chef and make sure to subscribe. Leave comments down below on if you would like us to do any other types of mock interviews. We are both very knowledgeable on the admin, consulting, development side of things, so we can do specific interviews around them on different levels as well. So this was more like an intermediate one. Thank you all for watching, and remember, I believe in you.